Hey guys, so we are back. We are here to discuss Foundation Frenzy. So before I dive into my final thoughts on all the foundations, I want to say first off, today is Saturday, July 14th. Foundation Frenzy ended yesterday with the Huda Beauty review going live, and it has been one heck of a trip. I think in the video that's going up on Monday, I kind of touched on Foundation Frenzy. So if there's things you want to know that I might talk about them more in this video. I'm trying not to overlap too much, but you can always check out that video. I will have it up here for you guys to go check it out. I have very many thoughts on this whole process. First off, to anyone who has left me a drugstore foundation suggestion to do in that series, I have written them down. I will slowly accumulate them over the next few weeks, and if I decide to go ahead with it, I might not. I might just make them straight up regular foundation videos. I'm not sure at this point. Just because I feel like a lot of people weren't really watching Foundation Frenzy. You know, at this point in my time, I've got 690 subscribers, and I think the average amount of views on each of these foundation videos, minus Huda Beauty, I'll leave that alone right now, but I think the highest one has like 28 at this point. That could be totally different by the time this goes up on Friday. Who knows? I could be totally wrong. But I feel like a lot of people weren't really watching it. A lot of people weren't really interested. So if you were someone who kind of felt that way, I know a lot of people have been complaining about multiple things, so I'm going to touch on that in a little bit. But, you know, I don't think people, I mean, I'm not generalizing, I'm not saying everyone was horrible. Some people were really, really sweet. Shout out to Rachel, who I think tried to be the first person to comment on every video until YouTube screwed up her notifications. You go, girl. But, you know, it's just been a lot of work. I'm not like the other YouTubers here on YouTube who don't work a regular job. I do work a regular job, and I had to work my filming schedule around going to work. So I have to go to a job every day for 8 hours, and I don't typically wear makeup to work. So for me, it's not like it was when I worked at Sephora, where I had to have a full face of glam makeup going every freaking day when I went to work. I try to avoid that now, because after 2 years of working at Sephora, it kind of like now. So I had to work. I did a lot of filming on weekends. That's why I started pre-recording in May, and I filmed the last of these videos on June 3rd, 29th, 30th? No, that's a lie. July 1st was the last video I filmed, and that was, I don't remember what video now, but that was the last day I filmed, was on July 1st. I feel like I'm all over the place. I need to center myself. So, the major complaints I received during this series, I kind of touched on them in the comments, but if you guys don't want to go searching back through all the videos, I'll just kind of list them here. People's first complaint was I shouldn't be reviewing foundations. That kind of seemed to be the big continuously popping up thing, was people are like, why are you reviewing foundations? Your skin's perfect. It's kind of stupid for you to be the one reviewing foundations. And here's the thing, everyone wears foundation. You don't have to be someone with really awful skin to be allowed to review foundations. Everyone's gonna have opinions. Not everyone has awful skin. Some people don't know where to start when I'm not gonna lie, and I know this sounds kind of along the lines of like a first world problem, but if you're someone who's like me, who I'm very lucky that I'm not super dry or super oily, I'm very normal skin, plus I don't have acne scarring, I don't have breakouts like that, I'm not acne prone that way. Usually I get breakouts from stress. I don't even really get hormonal, I get stress breakouts. And when you're someone like that, I feel sometimes it can be harder to find foundation, because you have to narrow down based on so many different things. It's not just what's the fullest coverage and what's going to cover up the problems with my face. It's not just that. It's more of taking into account, okay, well, I could try this with the 6 primers I like to use. I feel like there's a lot more guesswork involved. Sometimes I do wish that I had awful skin, so when I reviewed these foundations, I could be like, oh my god, you guys, this is awful coverage. None of you would like this. But the problem is, I'm someone who, when I worked at Sephora, I found this out too. I never really wore full coverage foundations. It was just never where I chilled. It's not really my thing. And a lot of these were full coverage. And it was really interesting for me to get to try some of them because I have freckles. And that's kind of what my judgment mark was throughout the videos. I mean, you guys watched them, you saw. I was judging their coverage based on A, how much my redness was covered, and B, how visible were my freckles. So that's kind of what I went off on for that. The second complaint I got on a few videos was people complain about the camera. I kind of kept one of those comments up because I left a response, like a long one to it. My camera that I have does have a filter. I've never said it didn't. It has a filter. That's why I tried to zoom you guys in every video so you could see past the zoom scope of the filter. And the filter is set to off. Even right now, it's set to off. If I could show you right now, I would, but I can't film the camera itself. Does that make sense? The filter is off, but it's never off. You know, it's always running. It's always functioning. It's just kind of like your version is high and low, but it says on or off, if that makes any sense. So I'm sorry if people felt it was misleading. And obviously there were a few foundations throughout the video where, because of work or because of when I had to film some of these videos, I missed out on getting to film in daylight. So I do have thoughts on some of those. The IT Cosmetics CC Plus comes to mind right now. You know, I'm gonna kind of break down all of it, and then I'm gonna be sharing both the original ratings I gave the foundation, what either knocked it down or bumped it up in its rating. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and do some arm swatches really quick. First off, we have the Dior Skin Forever Perfect Foundation in the shade 014, followed by the YSL All Hours Foundation in the shade BR10. Next is the Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation in 1C1 Cool Bone, followed by the CoverFX Power Play Foundation in P10. The next one on the line is the Ilia True Skin Serum Foundation in Formentera. The next one is the Estee Lauder Double Wear Nude Fresh in 1C1 Cool Bone. After that is the NARS Radiant Longwear Foundation in the shade Oslo, followed by the Bare Minerals Bare Pro Foundation in Fair 01. The next one is the Sunday Riley The Influencer in the shade 110. The Estee Lauder Double Wear Light in Intensity 0.5. Lancome Skin Feels Good in 010 Cool Porcelain. The Laura Geller Coverlock Foundation in Porcelain. The Laura Mercier Flawless Fusion Foundation in the shade Shell. The IT Cosmetics CC Plus Illumination in Fair. And finally, the Huda Beauty Faux Filter Foundation in 120 Vanilla. Sorry, my swatches got a little janky there at the end. But, I mean, obviously you guys can really see the shade range and difference here. Holy crap. So, I'm going to do these from best to worst. So, pause the video right now. Tell me down below, what do you think was the best foundation? What do you think was the foundation I loved the most and the foundation I hated the most? Tell me down below. Place your guesses now. Don't you dare cheat. I mean, not like I'm gonna know if you cheat, but it ruins the fun for you. Come on, guys, guessing game. It's not fun if everyone has the right answer all the time, right? My number one foundation, a foundation frenzy, was the one I'm wearing today. So if you've already read the description bar, which you should if you want to check out the links for each of these videos individually, speaking of which, they will all be listed individually down below along with their links, so that if you didn't see them and you don't want to sift through the entire playlist, which I don't know why you wouldn't because it's an awesome playlist, but they will be individually linked down below for you guys as well to go and check out. But the CoverFX Power Play Foundation in P10. So the original rating I gave this during the video was an 8.5. At the time I was kind of like, I don't know, it's a matte foundation, I really, really like it, but I'm always hesitant with matte foundations. I think this is the one that I've reached for the most since I finished filming. I think I've worn this, 3 or 4 times now since that video. I have no primer that I hate it with. It works well with the smoothing primers, with the radiance primers. It works well with the hydrating primers, like the Smashbox one. My one complaint for me, I think I probably should have gone with like P20 or maybe N15. I think there's an N20 or an N15 option. I probably should have gone with something like that because this is just a hair bit too light. As you can see right now, it's just the tiniest bit. Come September, this will probably be a fantastic shade for me, so I'm really looking forward to that. But this guy definitely won it all for me. It didn't settle. I think its only problem in the original video was that it clung a little bit to my dry patches, which I've now realized if I'm wearing a smoothing primer or an uber hydrating or radiance primer, it tends to hide it a little bit better. So that's kind of been my trick with this. So today I'm wearing it with my Tarte Clean Slate primer, and it's working like a dream. It looks perfect. It looks beautiful. I love this foundation, and I also feel like it has one of the best shade ranges out of all of these foundations that I've got here. So kudos to the CoverFX Power Play, and kudos to CoverFX. They're a great brand in general. I do appreciate a lot of the products that they make. I think it's great packaging, great for travel. I have no bad things to say. It ended up with a 9.5, but if we're gonna be honest, the top 3 all came out with a 9.5 in the end. I just realized, I literally sat there and went, okay, of the 3 that had a 9.5, which of these have I worn the most? CoverFX. That's literally what pulled it out in front. Coming in a close second, its original rating was a 9, and now it's got a 9.5, the Estee Lauder Double Wear Light. The only thing that I don't like about this is that it's a hair bit too yellow. It's a hair bit too yellow, which makes it look a little bit dark, but not like bad dark. And now that I kind of have a suntan going, it's not quite as noticeable. I say suntan, it's a burn that's slightly tan now. But this is fantastic. I think of the 3 Estee Lauder foundations, this was easily the one that I liked the most. I think this is a great foundation option, and of these 15 foundations, this is the one that still holds the highest rating. I think during the video it had almost a perfect 5-star rating. I think it was on Ulta.com. I've checked on Ulta.com again, and right now it's at like a 4.75 or something. So again, a really great rating review for this. I think this is worth it. If you are someone who likes lighter weight foundation, I would go with this. If you like fuller coverage, I would go with the other one. Or the other foundation that came out with a 9 straight out the gate and is ending with a 9.5 is the NARS one. Now, I have to admit, this is the one, like when I filmed, I literally thought this one was gonna come in first. This was one of the earliest ones that I filmed, and I thought this one was gonna win. Of the ones that I've worn, the top 3, this one would have come in second for that, but the finish of the Estee Lauder Light just pushed it a little bit ahead of this guy. But those 2 were really close. These 2 were a very close second and third for me. But this is fantastic. Again, great shade range. I love the packaging. NARS packaging, very classy, very pretty. And for once, I was happy that there was a lighter shade than Blanc. Right now it's a little light for me to be wearing. I think I wore it in Monday's video, but this guy is just great. I love this guy. He's fantastic. It's a full coverage that I can work with. It definitely didn't come out full coverage right out the gate, which is what I think I deducted points for in the first place. But I did mess around with, you know, amplifying it a little bit or mixing in some of the even fuller coverage foundations, more full coverage foundations, and it covers everything. So I just had to play around. I would recommend with this guy, if you're someone who's normal to drier skin, you definitely want something luminous to get this guy going. I strongly recommend either the Becca primers, they're both fantastic for this, or that Smashbox one I used the entire series. That's a great one to use with this too. So this is where we're gonna kind of start getting into fuller coverage foundations, just because, like I've said, they're not really my favorite, but they're great for mixing, especially on days when I do have a lot of breakouts or my redness is really bad. But coming in fourth is the Estee Lauder Double Wear Nude Fresh Makeup. This is in the shade 1C1 Cool Bone. I think the only redeeming factor of this thing is it does not friggin' oxidize. It originally had a rating of 7. I bumped it up to an 8 because I found that it's really great and it works really well mixing it with fuller coverage foundations. I didn't test it with any of the full coverage foundations in this series, but I did test it mixing it with, mixed it with my, oh my god, I'm totally blanking on the name. Tarte, my Tarte Amazonian Clay Foundation, which right now is a hair bit, actually they're almost the same color shade, not too far off, but I tried mixing with that out of curiosity because I was just like, will these even be compatible? And they were. So it's easy to build the coverage, and you can mix this pretty well. Because it's water-based though, you gotta be careful which foundations you're choosing to do it with because they might not mix. Or that's what bumped it up a point from what it used to be, from the 7 to the 8, was the fact that this mixes pretty well with all the things I tried. I tried mixing it with the CC creams, BB creams, I tried mixing it with the full coverage. It seems to be a pretty good medium mixing shade. My only complaint is that this doesn't come in a lighter shade so that it can be mixed with darker full coverage foundations, because this is already a hair bit on the dark side for me to wear. In 5th place, and this one went down. This one originally had a rating of 8, and it's down to a 7.5. This is the Laura Geller Cover Lock Foundation. I used this in a video earlier this week as well. This is in the shade Porcelain. This is a really great full coverage foundation. It's just not for me. I tried wearing it one more time, and either there's something in it that I'm reacting to, or there's potentially something else in my skincare routine, but I haven't really changed anything. It could be environmental, but I did get a few extra breakouts after wearing this foundation, so maybe this is just too heavy for my skin. I have tried shearing it out with some of the BB creams I own, and it does shear out pretty well, but this was the most impressive, I think, in terms of foundation coverage that I saw in this series. I kind of went into it kind of like, I don't remember why I even bought this. I think I bought it for kicks, and I ended up really liking it. So this is a great foundation. I just don't think it's the best option for me necessarily, but based on what it's claiming to do, it worked with a sponge, it worked with a brush, it worked really well either way. I think the shade range could the shade range could definitely use some help, but other than that, I think it's worth checking it out if you have a match in this. Next, one that bumped up a place. So this one I gave a 6, but to be fair, it didn't have a very good run in that video. It's now ending with a 7 out of 10. This is IT Cosmetics CC Plus Illumination. I will say this, I like this better than the IT Cosmetics CC Cream Original. I still hate how freaking yellow this is. That's the one thing. That is what is beating me up right now, is the fact that this is too yellow for me. So I've got to be really careful what the rest of my makeup is looking like, what I'm wearing, my eyeshadow color, like, because anything too warm toned with this will make me start to look jaundice. You know, I don't know how to describe it. I like the coverage, I like the finish, I like the packaging. It's shiny and reflective, and I like it. I just wish it wasn't freaking yellow. Next, what might now be my new favorite mixing in foundation. The final one from the entire series, the Huda Beauty Faux Filter. This one's in the shade Vanilla 120B. This one, I was very impressed with. You know, for, I mean, I think in the video I gave it a 6. It's ending with a 7. Just because I don't love it. It's not like I'm going to reach to ever wear this on its own again, probably, unless I have absolutely no color in the middle of December, because this is pretty light. And this isn't even the lightest shade. I was very impressed by that fact. This is one of the few foundations where I didn't buy the lightest shade, and the shade I got was still too light. But this one works really well mixing it, especially with the BB creams on days when I want a little more coverage, or when I was suffering from that sunburn. That awful, awful, awful sunburn. Oh my god, you guys, it was so freaking bad. This kind of helped cover the redness on my forehead. I think this is a very nice foundation. I think the packaging is kind of on the cheaper side for $40. Usually at that point I would expect to see a glass bottle like the Dior or the YSL or the NARS. But this, it's plastic, and it scrapes off. Like, you can scrape off the black at the bottom. So Huda should maybe look into changing or updating her packaging in the future. But other than that, no real complaints about this guy. He just didn't really wow me. This is now the midway point. Aren't we at the midway? Maybe we just passed it. Next, something that started at a 7 and has jumped down to a 6.5, the YSL All Hours Foundation. The color is what has bumped this down. I've realized wearing this more and more that it really oxidizes depending on the primer I'm wearing with it. And I know that sounds weird. I can't wear a radiance primer with this. It has to be a hydrating, and it can't be a smoothing, because for some reason the smoothing primers that I have aren't compatible with this. So it has to be a hydrating primer. Maybe if I keep testing further with more primers I've got, I'll find a smoothing or a radiance one that will. I don't have very many more left to try. But You know, I expected more from this. Everyone freaked out about this, and it's a really great foundation. I liked it a lot in the video, but it bumped down with the color. I think there might be one shade lighter than this. I might have to go check that, because if it oxidizes, maybe it being too light to begin with will work for it being dark enough later. Does that make sense? Okay guys, so we're about to start the downward spiral. These are the last 4 in the middle before we hit the absolute bottom 3. So next, something that's, this one originally had a rating of 8 and it's dropped down to a 6.5, and that is the Lancome Skin Feels Good. I wanted to like this so much, and there are so many good things. It gives a nice finish. It's very decently long lasting for a tinted moisturizer BB cream. This is the absolute worst shade range I have ever seen in my life. I'm assuming by this point I already inserted the swatches, and this one is so freaking dark. It's impossible for me to wear. Like, I have to blend it all the way down to here if I want it to look okay. So I have to be mixing it. I've been mixing it with the It Cosmetics one, and that seems to lighten it up enough for me to be able to wear it, but this is just too dark, and it makes me so angry because I liked this foundation, but the shade alone made me go, no. Next is the foundation that kicked the entire series off, the Dior Forever Skin Foundation in 014 Fair Almond. This is the shade. I wasn't really blown away by this foundation. It didn't wow me, it didn't make me hate it. It was just kind of in the awkward middle, and because it oxidized so drastically, and to start off with it was already too dark, I had to say no. I might go back and try and get the, I think there is a lighter shade. I don't think there was when I purchased it originally, maybe, because I would have purchased the lighter shade and I don't know why I didn't. I know why I did for another foundation, but not this one. So maybe I'll go in and exchange this for the lighter shade, and maybe I'll have a different opinion then. But this guy with this shade right now, it's too dark and it's really hard for me to wear, and I still haven't found a way to mix this in yet that makes this work nice. Next, the Laura Mercier Flawless Fusion Foundation. This originally had a rating of 7.5 and it has dropped down to 6. The shade on this is so ridiculously dark. Like, dark, 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 dark. We're starting to hit all the oxidizing foundations, the drastically awful oxidizing foundations. This one, the Dior one, were hands down the worst. I don't understand. I have this shade in the other Laura Mercier foundation, the Candle Glow one, and it doesn't oxidize this drastically. So whatever's in this formula, it oxidizes so badly. And I went into Sephora while this series was going on, and I swatched a couple of these just to see if the lighter shades made any different. The lighter shade still isn't light enough for me to use, so I might just straight up return this. I might donate it. I'm not sure, but this guy will probably not be, I mean, he might stay in my collection. Who knows? Maybe sometime down the line I'll have a fake tan and I'll be able to use it, but this guy just, no. I mean, he lasted, he felt a little heavy, he wasn't awful. There's too many if it had been this moments. Now, here's the question. The question is, how many of you thought that this was going to be in the bottom 3? It was a battle, actually. It is tied point-wise with the one I did put in the bottom 3, but this is the Ilia True Skin Serum Foundation. I ended up finding a way to make this work, and that is no primer. For me, that's how I made this guy work. It's still not the greatest formula I've ever tried. I really, if you're gonna buy a serum foundation, I would suggest you try the Juice Beauty one. The shade ranges on both this and the Juice Beauty are really not that great, but this is not worth its price tag. That's why it's so far down. You just go watch the review. I was like floored at how badly this did. It looked greasy, it didn't look right, it felt wrong, it meh. So this guy is going into number 11, spot number 11. So here we are, guys. We are at the bottom 3. Now, some of these had so many things wrong with them that it was just a matter of which one was the worst. And rounding out at number 12 or number 3 of our bottom 3, the Bare Minerals Bare Pro Foundation. The only thing that kept this from being one of the worst is the fact that it doesn't oxidize, and I found it works well as a mix-in if things are too dark. For some, not all foundations, but that's not redeemable enough. If I can't even handle wearing it on its own, at least with the fuller coverage ones that were a little bit too dark, I could still handle wearing them. This was just a complete and utter mess. I looked greasy, I looked No, this is bad. It's got a great shade range. I just realized, I don't know if I mentioned, but the original rating for the Ilia Skin Foundation was a 4 and it was ended at a 4.5, whereas this guy started out as a 5 and went down to a 4.5. Like, the fact, that's also the other thing that separated this from that one, of this one going to the bottom, is that if this one went down and the other one went up, I was like, something must have redeemed the other one. Nothing redeemed this. The second worst foundation, a foundation frenzy. Why do people like this? It made me break out. It's way too dark. It's so freaking heavy. My skin couldn't feel it. Felt like it couldn't breathe. This is the lightest shade. Estee Lauder, you need to have a discussion with yourself. None of these are a light enough shade. This is the Estee Lauder Double Wear. The original rating on this was a 6 and I knocked it down to a 4. I hate this so much that I couldn't even find something to mix it in with. Like, I didn't even want to try. I tried wearing it one more time just to see, and I switched it for a smoothing primer to see if that would help it, and it still settles, it still does all this and that and this. And I think I mentioned to my sister, and she's like, yeah, I don't even really wear it that much. I was really obsessed with it at first, and now I just kind of don't wear it. I feel like that's what happens with this foundation, is people fall in love with it, and then they hate it after a certain point, and they never want to wear it again. Even my mom reached that point with it when she was wearing it. She doesn't wear it anymore. She's got one bottle, but she's like, I just have it to finish it eventually. I do not recommend trying this out. If you want a full coverage, go to the ones that were higher up on this list. I think they are definitely more worth the money. This is very full coverage, but like, it's detrimental how full coverage this is. Which means, to all of you who guessed that this was going to be the worst foundation, you were good. This is the Sunday Riley The Influencer Foundation. There were so many things wrong. My original rating was a 3. I have knocked it down to a 2.5. The amount of things wrong with this foundation, the only positive is it's got a pump. Like, what the hell? No, 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 no. There were just so many things wrong with this. The only thing it was lightweight. It says natural looking. Nope. Long wear. No. Lightweight. It was lightweight. Satin matte finish. I was shiny as hell. Medium to full coverage. This wasn't even light. I swear to God, this had more coverage, this had more coverage, and this had more coverage. If you are looking for something that is a lighter weight, you know, better coverage, this is not worth your money. Go with one of these dudes. They're a better option. I will just straight up link the worst foundation video right up here so you guys can go and see my reaction of me literally touching my nose and there's no more foundation on my nose. And to be fair, I did have a sunburn when I tested this foundation out. I tested it when I no longer had a sunburn. No difference. It was just as awful. So I can't blame anything that I was saying in the video. Well, maybe it's the sunburn doing it. Nope, it was the foundation. And that is it. I'm done. I didn't want this video to be half an hour, and now it's looking like it's gonna be like 45 minutes. Tell me down below. Now I want you to go comment on your own comment. Did you guess correctly? Did you think you had the foundations correct? Did you pick the right one for number 1 and number 15? Tell me. Not that you win anything if you didn't, but you know. So that is it. I am done. Feels weird to be back and filming again. Monday's video is a review. Not foundation, but it is a review. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe, notification bell, leave a comment, a question, a concern, or if you have more drugstore suggestions for the future Foundation Frenzy drugstore series, tell me. You can follow me outside of YouTube if you feel so inclined. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at KOBeauty58. And if you want to see me do weird little videos, you should check out Musical.ly because I'm on Musical.ly. I am Baby Kate O. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in Monday's video. Bye!